They were trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself. Bill Russell didn't say that about himself. Tim Duncan didn't say that about himself. Nobody said that. Nobody but him in his camp. Steph Curry hasn't said that about himself. Steph Curry has never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Ray Allen never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Reggie Miller never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Allen Houston never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Nobody called himself the greatest in anything but that man in his camp.
They point to other guys, as you know, and say, oh, wait. Kobe and Michael would say, wait a minute, he didn't win as many championships with Jerry West. Hold on, you better mention Kareem. They would all mention Bill Russell. So the notion that anyone is saying, I'm the greatest, there's one guy in the history of sports I give total pass to saying I'm the greatest, and that's where GOAT comes from, Muhammad Ali. He's the only one who gets to say, I'm the greatest. Ali invented the conversation. He was, and to me still is, the greatest, because he didn't just change his sport. He didn't just change sports. He changed the world.
Changed society.
He changed the nation's position on war.
The debate over basketball's greatest player of all time has never truly cooled down, but recently it took a sharper and more serious turn. On ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, and Charles Barkley came together to address what they see as a growing issue in the sports culture. LeBron James publicly labeled himself as a GOAT. The discussion wasn't emotional or reactionary. It was deliberate, direct, and grounded in long-standing concerns about how greatness should be defined. Rather than attacking LeBron personally, the panel focused on the implications of self-declared legacy. They challenged the idea that greatness can be announced instead of earned through universal consensus. The conversation quickly shifted from admiration to examination, forcing viewers to reconsider narratives that have gone largely unquestioned. For many fans, it felt less like criticism and more like a long overdue reality check. The trio raised uncomfortable but important points, particularly around championships and how they were achieved. They questioned whether dominance should be measured only by titles or by the circumstances surrounding them. Calling oneself the greatest, they argued, risks undermining the humility and competition that once defined the league's legends. Their breakdown urged fans to slow down and look beyond surface-level achievements. Before diving deeper into discussion, the segment reminded viewers to stay connected, encouraging likes, subscriptions, and notifications so they wouldn't miss future analysis from NBA Showdown, a platform built on straightforward commentary without unnecessary gloss. The goal, they emphasized, was clarity, not controversy. Charles Barkley opened the core argument by reinforcing a point Stephen A. Smith has made repeatedly over the years. The focus wasn't on how many championships LeBron won, but how those championships came together. Barkley highlighted a pattern throughout LeBron's career, joining or assembling rosters stacked with elite-level talent. According to him, that strategy fundamentally changes how titles should be evaluated. He then posed a thought-provoking question that shifted the tone of the entire debate. If Michael Jordan had taken the same approach, moving teams and building star-heavy rosters, how many championships might he have won? 8? 10? More? The question wasn't meant to rewrite history, but to expose how different paths create different legacies. This line of thinking forces fans to reconsider what championships actually represent. Are they proof of individual greatness, or the result of carefully constructed situations? Team stacking, as the panel described it, complicates the purity of competition and blurs the line between dominance and advantage. It raises doubts about whether success was driven primarily by one player's excellence or by strategic roster engineering. Barkley was careful to clarify his position. He wasn't dismissing LeBron's talent or impact on the game. Instead, he was separating greatness from method. His argument centered on the idea that the journey matters just as much as the outcome. Two players can reach similar destinations while taking entirely different roads, and those roads shape how history remembers them. When comparing legacies, context cannot be ignored. Championships don't exist in a vacuum, and numbers alone don't tell the full story. The panel's message was clear. Evaluating greatness requires honesty about how success was built, and in that comparison, the path taken can be just as defining as the trophies collected along the way.
Smith mistakenly exposed himself and the fact that LeBron really shouldn't be in the top 3, and LeBron James stacked teams to get to where he is. So as he was talking about it, Stephen A. Smith then says he's wrong about not having LeBron in the top 3, but he's right by saying had Michael Jordan stacked teams to win championships, he would have had like 10 championships. So then the question then becomes, so if LeBron never stacked teams, how many championships would he have, Stephen A. Smith?
Stephen A. Smith pushed the conversation further by shifting the focus away from statistics and toward image. In his view, the issue isn't that LeBron belongs in the discussion among basketball's greatest. That debate is earned and unavoidable. The problem, he argued, is the effort by LeBron and those around him to steer public opinion toward a single conclusion, that he must be accepted as the greatest of all time. Smith explained that this kind of self-driven narrative is what separates LeBron from other historic figures in the sport. Players like Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, and even Stephen Curry never announced themselves as the best to ever play. They allowed their careers to speak for them and let fans, players, and historians decide. Their legacies grew naturally, shaped by performance and time, not by personal branding, be why openly claiming the GOAT title. Smith argued, LeBron invited a higher level of scrutiny. The conversation stopped being only about achievements and started including intent. This wasn't just a question of humility, but one of respect. Respect for the game's history and for those who came before. In Smith's eyes, true greatness doesn't need to be promoted like a product. It's recognized on its own. That distinction, he emphasized, is what separates legends who are embraced from those who are simply followed. Marketing can build an audience, but legacy is built through consensus and reverence. According to Smith, LeBron crossed that boundary when he turned greatness into a message rather than letting it remain a verdict delivered by the basketball world itself.
Trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself. Bill Russell didn't say that about himself. Tim Duncan didn't say that about himself. Nobody said that. Nobody but him in his camp. Steph Curry hasn't said that about himself. Steph Curry has never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Ray Allen never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Reggie Miller never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Allen Houston never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Nobody called himself the greatest in anything but that man in his camp.
Michael Wilbon added another layer to discussion by drawing from personal conversations he's had with basketball legends. He explained that players like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, despite their unmatched resumes, never felt the need to label themselves as the greatest. Even in private settings, they redirected praise toward teammates, rivals, and the players who paved the way before them. That mindset, Wilbon argued, reflected a deep respect for the game and its history. Wilbon then drew a sharp contrast by pointing to the rare exception in sports history. Muhammad Ali openly called himself the greatest, and few challenged it. But Wilbon made it clear that Ali's case was different. His claim wasn't built solely on championships or dominance inside the ring. Ali reshaped culture, sacrificed his career for his beliefs, and used his platform to challenge social injustice. His greatness extended far beyond sport. That comparison led Wilbon to pose a difficult question. What impact has LeBron had outside of basketball that justifies placing himself in that same category? It wasn't meant to dismiss LeBron's achievements on the court, but to separate athletic excellence from historical significance. Dominating a sport, Wilbon suggested, is not the same as altering the course of society. From Wilbon's perspective, this distinction matters. He acknowledged LeBron as an all-time great player, but argued that publicly claiming the ultimate title crosses an important line. To him, greatness is strongest when it's assigned by others, not declared by the individual. In that sense, Wilbon believes LeBron's self-proclaimed status risks diminishing the tradition upheld by legends who allowed history, not headlines, to define their place in the game.
Point to other guys, as you know, and say, oh, wait. Kobe and Michael would say, wait a minute, he didn't win as many championships with Jerry West. Hold on, you better mention Kareem. They would all mention Bill Russell. So the notion that anyone is saying, I'm the greatest, there's one guy in the history of sports I give total pass to saying I'm the greatest, and that's where GOAT comes from, Muhammad Ali. He's the only one who gets to say, I'm the greatest. Ali invented the conversation. He was, and to me still is, the greatest, because he didn't just change his sport. He didn't just change sports. He changed the world.
Change society.
He changed the nation's position on war.
Charles Barkley re-entered the discussion with one of the most direct assessments of the night. He circled back to a point many fans avoid: how championships are earned matters just as much as how many are won. In his view, titles secured through carefully assembled super teams simply don't carry the same weight as those built through continuity, struggle, and growth. He then challenged the audience to think about fairness in the conversation. If strategic roster building and power moves are acceptable when LeBron does it, why is there so much anger when analysts like David Falk openly criticize that approach? Barkley wasn't aiming for shock value. He was calling for consistency. You can't praise the strategy on one hand and condemn the criticism on the other. According to Barkley, the emotional backlash against dissenting voices only reinforces the problem. Instead of countering criticism with reasoned debate, many rush to outrage, which avoids the substance of the argument altogether. That reaction, he suggested, speaks volumes. The core of his point was a simple principle. Respect in basketball should be earned through resilience, not maneuvering. Overcoming adversity builds legacy. Engineering advantage clouds it. And when analysts expose that difference, the response should be thoughtful discussion, not defensive chaos.